Maybe some of you were like me, you're very movie as a kid, like moving all over the place, right? Not anymore. I used to move a lot. Favorite game was Gil Hedley. 10 years old, you get the ball, you run, all your friends run after you. They pummel you, they push your face in the mud, they beat you until you let go of the ball. They take the ball and they run with it, you don't chase after that one. Right? You do that for hours and hours. Gil Hedley. That was my favorite game. That was good. That's the way it is at a party, right? The little kids are running around, they're tumbling around on the rug, they're wrestling with each other, they're running around the house, and the middle-aged folk, right, their parents, they're all in the kitchen. You know, they're moving, but they're like making macaroni salad. They're sprinkling mushrooms into jars, not mushrooms, marshmallows. Depends on the party. Marshmallows into jello molds. And yelling at the kids. And then the old folk, they're sitting around the living room, right? And they're watching people moving. Right? The older ones are just watching with their eyes. Every once in a while they call out like, yeah, I'll have another. Yes. Right? So there's stages of movement throughout your life. Now when I went from that tremendously movie young child, and then I kind of rode my bike a lot in high school, but particularly in the 70s, we had a weightlifting machine in the gym called the Universal Machine. Now some of you may remember the Universal Machine. It had several stations: bench press, military press, a lat pull down, and leg press. You went around in circles doing that, and by junior year in high school, every boy walked around like this. We had what was called the 24-hour lat spread. We kind of waddled. And we had the range of motion of the Universal Machine, right? Now, eventually I got religion and started imitating St. Francis, and I always wore my hood up and walked around like a monk. And by the time I got to graduate school, I was pretty much like a monk. I walked around and read for hours and hours. I was like a professional reader, and I would read philosophy and theology as I walked around the library with my hood up. And if the weather was fair, I would go out on Lakeshore Drive and walk from the south side of Chicago all the way to the Loop, 6 to 8 miles maybe, just reading philosophy. Can you see my movement pattern had changed, right? And even I recognized things had gotten a little limited. And I went to a club, like a club meeting at the University of Chicago's club night, right? And I saw this group of people, there was about a dozen of them, with a leader who was like a great heron teacher. And, it was the University of Chicago Tai Chi Gal Club. And they did this kind of thing. I thought it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. So I joined the club. And I did this for 7 years. Until I was going to go insane. I had built up so much choreography that it took me 2 hours a day just to maintain my choreography. And what had become a tremendous boon to my range of motion from this stage had become like a straitjacket over the course of time. And I had to move differently. Some of that exploration took place through my Rolfing training. For instance, when I stood in front of my Rolfer for my first evaluation, in my first session, you stand there in your underwear and takes a picture with Polaroid. And I'm like, he says, just stand in front of me. I'm like, okay. And he looks out from behind his Polaroid and says, stop doing that! I was like, whoa! I knew I had been doing something, right? My pelvis tucked, breathing from my diaphragm, straight back, and chin tucked, and it was like I was a Tai Chi guy, right? So I got my 10 sessions right there. I just shook it off. I cried on the way to the bus that night, not from the touch, but from the fact that I was allowing my body to move again in a way that I had sort of dispermitted based on my ideas of what it meant to walk like a Tai Chi guy. And when I went to the Institute and we did our movement training, and I walked in front of the class, Jane Harrington, she had me walk in front of the class, off like this. Well, they're going to evaluate my gait, my walking patterns, and here it was. Eyes 6 inches, probably 6 feet in front of me on the ground. Right? To avoid the concupiscence of the eyes, right? Because if a monk kind of looks up and catches titty. So, basic form of self-protection. And so I'm walking along, Jane says, Gil, would you consider raising your eyes to the horizon while you walk? And I remember the moment well, so I lifted my eyes to the horizon and I saw exactly what I see now. I marveled at this warm group of people who were looking at me with appreciation and kindness and hoping the best for me. And I thought, wow, I've been missing out. I really missing out. When I was coming up to the horizon and spotted the mother of my children in the room at the time. So lots of movements crept into my behaviors. Another thing, I would practice the Tai Chi outside in order to get catcalled, basically. Throw beer cans at you and stuff. And that's a way to sort of, we believe, to increase our focus. But the particular catcall that I got more than once was, it looks really pretty, but you don't have any chi. I mean, that was like so mean. I'm thinking to myself, what do you mean I don't have any chi? I'm a Tai Chi guy, Tai Chi guy. And I'm thinking, I'm really taking this to heart. I'm like, do I just have Tai? And I'm thinking, my teacher gypped me. Like he just keeps taking my money without telling me about the chi. And I'm like pissed off at that. But I didn't have. Where does pissed off fit here? Like, how can I be pissed off like this? Like, or this guy walking along like this, right? Where does sex fit in there? Is this guy having sex? Remember St. Francis? So, turns out that anger and sex that was where my chi was. It was in it. It was contained. It was kind of gummed up. I couldn't permit myself those emotions. I couldn't permit those movements. They didn't fit with my identity. Right? So it's not just stasis, dehydration, and inflammation. Those are secondary effects to identifications, relationships, behaviors, churches, families, communities, cultures in which we are moving, in which we are structuring our movement patterns, right, and creating limit cycles for ourselves. And within those limit cycles, we gum up some of our body and allow some of it to move. Right? Depending upon the identity, you'll allow yourself to move in different ways. And everybody could spot the Tai Chi guys at the University of Chicago. Because we all move the same way. Right? And I could spot the other Catholics in my community. Because we all move the same way. Right? And you could build up those bits and pieces together. Right? You see, it's all the way down to the motor units. Right? You were looking at great gross differential movement in the body in the footage that I showed you, but if I could show it to you all the way down to the motor units, all the anatomical named things aren't functional units. Gastroc isn't a functional unit. doesn't function all at the same time, right? If all the fibers of gastroc fire at the same time, that's not functional movement, that's a Charlie horse. Ah! Right? That's what that is, right? Functional movement is where some units are on and some units are off, and they trade off back and forth between one another. Right? So right next door to each other, a motor unit is firing or not, and there's differential movement at that very level. And at that very level, these behaviors and patterns and associations and self-identifications are played out. And when you take someone into movement choreography as a Pilates instructor, as a yoga teacher, when you rub on them as a melter or take them through your eccentrics program or you yoga tune-up them, you massage them or rolf them or what have you, right? You're actually disrupting that set of compensations and making an invitation to move into and live in these tissues that you're touching. Consciousness comes there and says, is this my home too? Is this a room in my house? Am I allowed to live and move here too? Is the answer, because if I can do this, that's going to create a very different set of relationships in my home. Right? Hey baby, I just got a massage. Right? And that might open doors, right, in that home. She could have been waiting for years to see that walk through the door, but it could also get doors shut. Right? Not tonight, honey. Like, who are you, right? And when they come back to you the next week looking exactly like they did the week before, I don't shame them for that, because they could have taken that richness that was offered home and found that home wasn't quite ready for that yet. Sorry, thank you very much. And everybody at the Rolf Institute was divorced. If you go through life, this incredible, transformative, life-changing body exploration, and you achieve a whole new level of self where you can now be angry, or you can enjoy your sexuality, or you can live in every bit of your body, right? Then does it fit? Because you're not moving by yourself. There is no yourself. There's only the nest of relationships that you're swirling. Just something to be mindful of when you're working with people and inviting them beyond their place. You're all in transformational territory doing what y'all do.